becoming the #1 health obsession in the United States. A rising epidemic around the world. A problem growing out of all proportion. Fat. Though we idolize slim people, we can't seem to stop eating. So we try diets, workouts, willpower. Yet any way we look at it, we're fatter than we like. Fatter than is good for us. We've declared war on our bodies. A war on ourselves. If a cave woman could time travel, she would be amazed by the 21st century. In her time, food was scarce and ran for its life. In our time, we just grab a bite and go. Primitive woman would be amazed to see her descendants sitting around day and night, eating, gorging, getting fatter than ever. But from all appearances, the happiest, richest, and most successful humans are thin, with perfect figures. That's an ideal that 97% of the rest of us never achieve. The message seems to be, would you rather have this or be happy? Be seduced by these or have a sexy figure? Taste ice cream or taste love? If you're not a perfect size 2, you're a loser. Fat, the miracle that once helped us survive, is now our curse. Why is it so hard to control ourselves? The answer is complicated. In the past century, technology transformed our society. For the first time in history, getting food is effortless. Machines move our bodies from one point to another. We rarely get enough exercise. And then there is a mysterious and unseen force, our genes.
People tend to want to think that somehow the human has total free will and can control food intake and body weight just by having willpower, and just not so, unfortunately.
We now know we inherit the genetic potential to be fat or thin. So we are not in complete control of our weight. As a result, losing weight is hard. It's a daily struggle for people of all sizes.
The voice is always telling me, eat. And especially at night, it's like I can't go to sleep unless I've eaten, and eaten a lot.
I became bulimic. Not something I'm proud of saying at all.
I feel trapped. There are a lot of voices in my head telling me that there are all sorts of things that I can't do or I can't have because of the way that I look.
Fighting fat has become the battle of our time.
You're mad at me.
I am.
And it's an old struggle, and it's an exhausting one.
Rachel Gardner has been trying to lose weight all her life.
I will. Let me try.
Is Rachel overweight? At 5'5" and 165 pounds, she's moderately overweight according to the chart. But off the chart, there's no question. Rachel feels fat, and that's a problem for an actress.
And I'm constantly sort of comparing myself and thinking, do they want a plump, voluptuous version of this character, or are they looking for, lithe and beautiful?
While Rachel's acting has won her professional acclaim, her weight has caused her personal anguish for most of her life. The fight against fat means giving up sleep. Today, up at the crack of dawn, she heads out to the gym with a long day ahead. Rachel hopes to lose 10 pounds by the time her play opens in 3 weeks. but she's bucking the odds. Studies show that as few as 3 to 5% of dieters keep the weight off over the long haul.
I never thought that I would be 30 years old and that it would still be an issue for me.
Anxiety about weight only makes a nonstop day more stressful. And more stress is the last thing any of us need.
The average American experiences 50 fight or flight responses a day, and that's a stress response. Heart rate goes up, blood pressure, respiration rate, muscle tension, especially across the back of the neck and shoulders.
Food is a ready-to-go stress reliever. Many foods raise our level of serotonin, a hormone that controls our moods.
Could I get an almond croissant and coffee to go? Sure. Thanks. I feel better about eating something that maybe has more fat in it earlier in the day so I can burn it off.
All through the day, eating does more than just fill the stomach.
Have a nice day, madam. Okay. And I'll notice that there will be times when I'm so hungry for some sort of closeness or intimacy with someone, some sort of human contact, and I will go get a brownie.
We're the hardest working people in the industrial world, and I think that really has created a situation where quick comfort, something that you can do without interrupting your work or maybe even while you work, becomes particularly valuable, and that's food.
The pressure continues after work. Rachel only has a few minutes to eat her dinner while she studies lines for the rehearsal. After rehearsal, Rachel's in the home stretch, but now she faces her greatest challenge. Sitting on the sofa before the television, her willpower falters.
You see, as soon as I sit on the couch and I eat something that I shouldn't be eating, it's like all bets are off, the day's a waste, and it gives me a chance to sort of disconnect and kind of do nothing and expect nothing from myself.
It's not how Rachel plans to end her day, but for some reason, breaking her diet allows her to relax. If you add up all the diets, Rachel's lost more than 100 pounds over her lifetime. She always gains it back. Will she succeed this time? And why is she so obsessed with losing weight anyway?
We believe that weight ought to be controlled as a sign of self-discipline, as a sign of good character, in a society in which we constantly worry and are often told that our character is just spinning out of any control.
Despite success rates of only 3 to 5%, diets are popular, almost as popular as eating. For many, it's a head-on collision between what we should eat and the fatty, sweet, and salty foods we are biologically programmed to love. In our evolutionary past, fat, sugar, and salt were rare. Now people need help resisting all the bounty around us. In the United States, the diet industry rakes in $33 billion a year.
The best data suggest that about 2/3 of all Americans at any given point think they should be on a diet, are on a diet, or have just finished a diet. That's extensive social preoccupation.
America leads the way in dieting and obesity, but across the globe, other countries are catching up. Australian women spend $500,000 US a day on diet products. In Argentina, eating disorders run 3 times higher than in the United States. Argentina's rate of anorexia may be the highest in the world.
25,000 people applied to work in the Moscow McDonald's.
Russia is home to 21 McDonald's restaurants. The McDonald's in Moscow is the busiest in the world, feeding 40,000 customers a day. Much of the world now faces the problem of too much food, and too much fat.
I'll do this back.
The shocking news is that scientists say diets don't work because it's not just a question of willpower.
The question of why diets fail, I think, is biological. I think many people have the feeling that the reason diets fail is that there's something the matter with them. The primary problem, I think, is that the body is set up to maintain levels of body fat, not to shed them easily.
Dr. Rudolf Leibel researches obesity at Columbia University with live-in human subjects. In a landmark study, Leibel and his colleague, Dr. Michael Rosenbaum, forced the weight of patients down by 10%. They made a startling discovery. The body seems to have a set point for weight. When we diet, the body resists loss below this set weight by burning fewer calories.
All right, so this will just sit on your head.
The body's metabolism slows down. The energy expenditure slows down.
Leibel feels this is why diets fail. People describe this resistance in psychological terms.
Okay, Ron?
But there are actual physical symptoms, alarm bells going off from the body.
They feel tired or cold or upset in a number of ways. We interpret this as the body trying to return itself to its starting or initial level, and the brain is picking up these signals.
Okay.
The surprise works both ways.
You can stop paddling.
The body fights weight gain too, but not as much.
And the system is not really set up to resist weight gain. It's primarily designed to defend a certain amount of body fat below which it won't allow you to go.
The traditional way of life meant constant physical labor. Famine was just a bad harvest away. Those who could store calories were the ones who survived the hard times. They passed down these talented, fat-storing genes. Scientists call these genes thrifty genes.
Thrifty genes have been conserved in humans and other animals that are alive on the planet right now, because these are the genes that allowed the animals to survive in hostile environments before we had figured out ways of making cars and making gasoline and making hamburgers and pizzas and so forth.
So do our genes foil our diets? Nobody knows for sure. We do know that genes are not the whole story.
Somewhere between 20% and 80% of a person's body weight is under genetic control. My own feeling is it's probably close to 40 or 50%. So half is in the genes, half is due to other related environmental types of effects.
We can't control our genes, but we can change our lifestyle. The best place to start is with our kids. Children, as we know, learn from what they see. Too often these days, life is a series of snacks. We have too many choices, and it's gotten out of hand. Nearly 1 out of 4 children in the United States is now considered overweight. That's a whopping 100% increase in the last 2 decades.
The hardest part is staying away from the sweet and the fattening food.
Nicholas Saravia is 12 years old, 5 feet 3 inches tall, and weighs 179 pounds. He's too heavy, and his life at school has been miserable.
My first day there in my old school, they started picking on me. I just felt real sad, like I never wanted to go there again.
I got 2 new pairs of jeans.
Treating obesity in children is still relatively new. Nicholas has joined one of just a handful of comprehensive kids programs nationwide. This one is called Trim Kids and is run by Louisiana State University.
Pick up a 10-pound bag of potatoes at the store and see what that's like. That's what you're losing for every.
Starting early appears to help. The program has been far more successful than the dismal numbers for adult diets. 70% maintain a significant weight loss after 5 years.
My name's Ashley.
The Trim Kids staff try to nurture a feeling of positive achievement in the kids.
I stayed the same this week.
Yay! Good job. It's pretty well documented that children who are overweight have low self-esteem, have depression, have some of these emotional problems, and that they carry these problems all the way into adulthood.
Hi, my name is Nicholas.
The emotional problems associated with childhood obesity, we feel that those are the ones that make treatment so vital early.
That's about right. This number 4 meal has 1,925 calories and how many grams of fat?
During the first part of the year-long program, the children learn what not to eat.
From 75 to 106 grams of fat. Calories and how many grams of fat?
During the first part of the year-long program, the children learn what not to eat.
From 75 to 106 grams of fat.
The heaviest kids also go on an aggressive, high-protein, low-carb diet to jumpstart weight loss. It's a tricky business when kids diet. They must eat the right things to keep growing, so every child is carefully monitored.
How'd you do in your math test?
Nicholas feels he became fat because his appetite doesn't shut off.
Well, pretty much my brain, whenever I eat a lot, it just tells me to eat more and more. And so that's why I've been eating really slow.
On top of this, Nicholas's environment is filled with fast food, especially French fries.
Pretty much everywhere I look, there's French fries. And it's really hard to stay away from them. Very hard.
Nicholas's mother, Terry, is a working mother with 4 children who are ravenous after school. She struggles to feed everybody without resorting to fast food.
Fast food's hard. Coming home from work, I don't feel like cooking, and in every block you've got 2 or 3 different fast food restaurants.
It isn't easy, but Nicholas and his family are committed, and their efforts are paying off. Nicholas has been in the program for 10 weeks, and already he's lost 13 pounds. He's feeling good about himself.
Ever since I started losing weight, I started believing in myself even more. I'm not as scared as I used to be. Because when I had that weight issue, I was just scared of everything. Now I'm just telling myself, heck, let's go and try it.
If Nicholas can stay on track, he'll be one of the successful kids. 13-year-old Trey Olano came to the Trim Kids program 8 months ago. He's undergone an amazing transformation. Trey weighed 208 pounds when he started, almost twice his ideal weight. He's since lost over 40 pounds, added about 10 pounds in muscle, and over an inch in height. Despite this, he's worried about the 2 pounds he gained this week.
Some weeks, your weight is going to go up because you're growing.
Heidi Schumacher, the program's dietitian, tells him that given his physical activity, the weight gain is most likely muscle.
Because do we care if you have muscle weight? No. As long as you look good, who cares, right?
Trey used to hide at home playing computer games, watching television, and eating junk food. He believes he gained weight because he had nothing better to do. With the help of his father, a phys ed teacher, Trey now excels at sports. He quarterbacked his high school football team in his freshman year. But he has constant temptations around him, and his father worries about the weight creeping back on.
I mean, it's a total commitment, and it's hard because I'll find myself even at sometimes, you know, cheating in front of him, and you have to catch yourself and try not to. Even at 31 years old, it's hard, and it really takes a total commitment from the family.
We've created a society where children have adult worries. An obese child runs high odds of becoming an obese adult.
The environment of the United States does nothing, absolutely nothing, to support children who are trying to manage their weight. And obesity is society's problem. I mean, we have to get together as a society and decide that it is a priority that we reduce obesity in this country.
The crisis in childhood obesity is cropping up in surprising places. In China, where tradition is fading and junk food is rising, obesity in children has almost doubled since 1995. In Israel, kosher McDonald's market their meals to kids. Obesity is a problem with no borders. Fat, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's well known that fatty diets contribute to diabetes and heart disease, the leading cause of death in the United States. This is what blood looks like in your body before eating fatty food. Blood cells humming merrily along. But 30 minutes after downing a fatty meal, cells coated in fat begin to clog up and slow down. Yet we also can't live without fat. Fat is a miraculous substance that stores more calories per ounce than any other.
Fat is the fuel, the energy that we carry around on our bodies that allows us to go without eating any additional food. And it's a very, very good way of storing energy. If you were going to invent one, body fat's a great one.
Fat enabled us to survive in the lean, mean times. We idealized figures that were powerful and stout. Later, painters offered up plump, lush bodies as objects of beauty.
It's fair to say, in Western culture, the dominant emphasis was on the enjoyment of a certain amount of flesh that was viewed as sensual, that was viewed as a sign of good health, and a sign of the capacity to enjoy life. The slender person was somebody who could not be normally satisfied and therefore was potentially dangerous.
Our views on body size changed gradually, starting around the turn of the 20th century. Perhaps because women entered the workforce, the ideal female figure grew slimmer and more like a man. Today, while most people's weight soars high, the average weight on the runway hits all-time lows.
We're idealizing everything. There's a lack of acceptance of something less than ideal, and that's our obsession with perfection. And I think the fat is just playing that out.
Our impossible ideals damage even a woman with a body close to perfect.
My bookers would tell me to lose weight, not even in a nice way.
Louise McCallum is 5'10" and 155 pounds. That's not overweight by the medical charts, but the fashion world has brutal standards.
They would slap my bum in front of everyone and say, oh, had a big breakfast this morning, then, lose it. At 15, 16 years old, you feel your whole world has crumbled around you.
Louise began her career in London by modeling on her summer vacation. She was shocked to find herself considered fat. Then she learned how many in the fashion world handle this problem.
I saw this one girl at a casting eat a whole packet of biscuits, and she was very skinny. And I was thinking, God, that's amazing. How do you do that and stay so thin? And then she went to the bathroom and came back, and her eyes were watering. She was wiping her mouth. I thought, oh, great, I can do this. I became bulimic. Not something I'm proud of saying at all.
Louise began throwing up after every meal. Bulimia is a common problem in the fashion industry.
It made my skin go really bad. And everything else, my under eyes went really dark, hair went dark. It looked like death, really.
Although Louise slimmed down to American size 6, she felt depressed and sick all the time. 8 months went by, and she confessed to her sister. Her sister told her she must stop.
She scared me by saying it's a disease and people do die from it. And then she said, look in the mirror and look at yourself. And I was standing next to my sister, who was nice and healthy. She was tan, she had lovely hair, she looked great. And then I looked at me, and I looked like a black and white photo. It was completely a moment of truth.
Louise gave up modeling and regained her health. She found a 9-to-5 job and enjoyed a normal life. Then she got another chance. An agency asked her to work as a plus-size model, and she was back in business. Today, she's in high demand. Modeling sizes 10 through 14, what the rest of the world would call normal. There's a place for her after all, in the slightly larger scale world of plus-size beauty.
Because women aren't skinny. You don't have to be skinny to be beautiful, because you don't at all.
Louise has survived her short but bruising battle with the unrealistic standards of high fashion. For others, fighting biology has been a lifelong struggle. Karen Teacott has been obese since childhood. At age 40, she is 5'2" and weighs 368 pounds. Over a period of a half a year, Karen shot a very candid video diary.
Okay, so just some advice to the listener. If this gets played, don't tell a fat person they're fat. They know it.
Karen is morbidly obese, a medical term meaning more than 100 pounds over ideal weight. She suffers from type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, and sleep apnea, a condition in which she stops breathing in her sleep. Having lived with the difficulties of obesity all her life, Karen sometimes questions her belief in a benevolent God.
If there was a God like that, there'd be absolutely no reason to plot me down in the middle of a world that I am so set apart from.
Karen has to face an unforgiving world every time she goes out.
Being fat means everybody has an opinion of what you should and shouldn't be eating. And then there are the people that yell nasty things out windows in cars. And, you know, so you have that societal thing happening around you all the time.
Every day, Karen grapples with her sheer physical bulk.
Walking several blocks is you're carrying around like a 200-pound weight. I tend to be people claustrophobic because I'm always sure that I'm in at least 3 people's way. I never sit down on a bus because I don't want to have somebody think that they have to sit next to me. You know, because that's, you know, you just don't want to wreck somebody's day.
Does Karen eat too much? Yes, and the problem is appetite. She has never felt full in her life.
The voice is always telling me, eat. And especially at night, it's like I can't go to sleep unless I've eaten, you know, and eaten a lot. I will sometimes drive home and grab, you know, a Big Mac and then go home and eat dinner. And then am still hungry by the time I go to bed.
Experts agree that this is typical of the severely obese.
They never really seem to feel full or have that normal feedback mechanism that, say, smaller patients would to tell them when it's time to stop eating.
Karen's tried diets, therapy, and drugs, and none of it has worked. Desperate to lose weight, Karen is going to have surgery. Her stomach will be stapled and her small intestine rerouted. It's a last resort.
In the severely obese population, these are patients 100, 200 pounds over their ideal body weight. Dietary programs, exercise, they just don't work for this population. And surgery has been demonstrated to work for these folks, and that's why it's been recommended. It is a last resort, but it's kind of the only thing that works.
Being fat makes surgery more dangerous. There's a slew of potential complications, including blood clots and infection. Roughly 1 out of every 100 dies from the operation. It's risky, but staying Karen size is riskier still.
I really don't have any fears about it, and I figure I'm living on borrowed time. I would rather die on the table than not have it done.
Karen's putting her life on the line to pursue her dream of losing weight. In another corner of the world, Trudy Norman also has a dream.
It's always something I've done inside me when I would listen to music, and it was just who I was, and I was the young sylph-like creature, slender and beautiful, who was dancing, of course, the lead in all of these parts. I thought it would always remain a fantasy for me, that would be nothing that would ever happen, because I was too large, I was too ungainly, I didn't have any grace or anything that could lead me to be a dancer in any way.
Trudy Norman thought her weight kept her from becoming a dancer. But in 1993, she discovered a class in British Columbia called Big Dance.
Big Dance began just in that kind of an extension of that rebellious nature that I have, which is dance with whatever you have, and the rules be damned.
Okay, right foot, and push, and 2, and 3, and 4. Walk.
Reno bucked tradition by starting a dance class for big women. Most of her dancers weigh between 200 and 300 pounds and could be called morbidly obese.
5, 6, 7, going, push, 2, 3.
Reno faced the challenge of choreographing for people who couldn't move with ease.
Back leg crossover. See that curve on the hip? That's a beautiful curve on a woman's hip.
She said, you know, you're all here, you're all large, you know, we all see that, and what I want you to do is dance big.
1 and 2, folding in on 3.
And she still says to us, bigger, bigger, I want it bigger.
And 6, and 7.
And I'd never been encouraged to take up space in the world, period, not ever.
Développé, 3, down, 4, head goes left to right, and 7.
To take up space in the world, period, not ever.
Développé, 3, down, 4, head goes left to right, and 7.
Reno pushed the women to become serious dancers, and Trudy Norman's dream came true. Big Dance has grown into an acclaimed dance company that tours in Canada and abroad. You might think that with 15 to 20 hours of rigorous rehearsal a week, the dancers would lose weight. They haven't. Instead, they have grown in many ways.
Their whole self-image is one of a grander person, a person whose chest is lifted, a person who presents themselves powerfully rather than cowering in any way. They're powerful artists that I just love working with.
In the meantime, I've learned to not just accept myself, but to love my body for what she's done, which is to be healthy and beautiful and allow me to dance, my passion in life.
We must learn when to call a truce in our war against fat.
Then stop fighting it and let me do what I do.
Rachel's play is well received by critics and audience. She also succeeds in losing 9 pounds by the time her play opens.
Charming babble. The opening night was scary. It didn't matter that I had lost weight. I mean, that was not something I was thinking about.
Making sense.
But for the next month, Rachel performs 6 times a week on top of a full-time job. She can't keep up with her regimen. She regains the weight she lost.
Had a lot of energy sort of going in, and then as I got more and more into it, got more and more tired, wore myself down, got sick. It sort of disintegrated.
Rachel's fiancé, Keith, doesn't think Rachel needs to worry about her weight at all.
I mean, I've thought she was beautiful, obviously, since the first time I ever saw her. But knowing that she struggles with her image of her weight and her self-image, it just always seems like such a waste of energy.
I've spent so much of my life seeking kind of external validation from men about how I look. And now I have that. I mean, in Keith, and that he's completely unconditional. And I do take comfort in that, but it doesn't turn off those voices in my head that have been there, you know, forever.
Why is Rachel so unhappy with her body? Slim women are celebrated everywhere in our culture. More substantial women are not. Rachel recalls a particularly unflattering magazine article.
I remember thinking, okay, which body type is mine? Is it the athletic type? And I was like, please, please. I'm like, no, I'm not the athletic type. Is it the voluptuous hourglass type? And I thought, well, I'd like to think so, maybe. You know, and then there's the pear. And I just remember seeing the pear shape and thinking, I don't want to be the pear, you know, but I think I might be the pear.
At this point, we're going to move ahead.
So far, Rachel hasn't been able to beat the statistics on dieting. But hope springs eternal.
The bodice is gathered.
Her next plan is to lose 30 pounds for her wedding.
How I want to look for my wedding, I guess the thing that I'm most concerned about now is I don't want to have any arm flab, and I don't want to have any back fat, you know, just like your basic bridal stuff.
These pieces of the pie.
Gotcha.
Pink.
In another time, another place, Rachel wouldn't worry about fat at all. But she is a product of our culture. And these days, the message is that most of us don't measure up. Yet rather than striving to be what we're not, we can use a more sensible standard.
It's not fat that's the problem, it's fitness that's the problem, and they're not the same things. There is no exact science here, even though we have lots of people pretending that there is.
Although she's moderately overweight and would love to be slimmer, the fact is that Rachel's healthy. And in the end, being healthy may be our most attainable goal. In early November, Karen's gastric bypass surgery goes off without a hitch. Her stomach has been drastically reduced from roughly 32 to 6 ounces capacity. She will have to eat smaller amounts more often during the day. For the first time in her life, she will feel full.
3 of these would comprise the size of my stomach. But this is as much as a stomach can hold after the surgery.
Karen's small intestine has been rerouted so that she absorbs 70% less fat. 8 weeks go by, and Karen comes in for one of her regular checkups. She must eat the right things, or she could develop severe malnutrition down the road.
Think of all the years I spent making sure not an inch of me was ever uncovered for anybody at any time. It's ridiculous.
Life doesn't instantly improve after the operation. Karen's lost 40 pounds, which is good progress. But since most of the weight is lost in the first 18 months, she worries that she's not losing fast enough.
I'm a little frustrated in the weight loss. It's much slower than I had anticipated, but I am still very pleased that I had the surgery done. I'm still hoping that you know, in 18 months I'll be a normal-sized person.
I don't know if I could have been as strong as my wife and daughter.
Karen attends a support group for inspiration.
My name is Elaine Henry. I had my surgery last year, August, and I've lost 190 pounds. These, if you can see them, these are my old pants.
Here, I'll hold half.
Thanks, Karen.
You squeeze the top, squeeze.
Elaine Henry had her surgery 14 months ago. She is 5'11" and weighed 345 pounds before surgery. Elaine grew up in an adopted family. She was the only one with weight problems. Later, she learned that her biological parents both suffered from morbid obesity. On top of her genetics, she developed an eating disorder as an adult.
I mean, I never really felt positive about myself, and one thing that made me feel really good was the taste of food and it being in my mouth and the flavor of it, and then going down. And then I felt really, really good for a little while. 8.
Good job.
9.
3 more. Come on, you can do it.
For Elaine, the surgery came with a high price.
One more. You got it.
She almost died from complications.
Good job.
But she says she would do it again.
One more for good luck.
I feel awesome. I feel healthy, and now that I'm at the stage where I am healthy, I'm actually now enjoying my body.
Elaine has a whole new life ahead of her. Still, losing all that weight is a big adjustment.
14 months to lose 190 pounds is a lot of weight. I mean, the fat that I had just was my security blanket in a big way, and I don't have that anymore.
It's hard, you know. They had to pound.
Bob Altman was 410 pounds before he had the operation.
These were my pants that I was wearing just prior to the surgery. I'm somewhere in there.
Come on, girls. Now Bob can walk into any clothes store and browse the racks for what he likes.
Grandpa!
Here we go.
I think it fits you really well. Turn around.
When you walk into a store and nothing fits, you get very angry at yourself. You realize that the reason nothing fits is because you've eaten too much. And so what does that do? It makes you angry, it makes you depressed, and you go back and you eat some more. And it's just that continuing cycle that never ends.
Bob almost died after surgery. He was on life support for 3 weeks. The doctors did not expect him to live.
He woke up and he said, "Did I miss the football game?" And I said, "Yeah, honey, you missed 3 of them. We're very lucky he's here today shopping. And, you know, this is like a pleasure because it's the first time that I've had...
It's a pleasure until you get the credit card bill.
Well, okay. But it's the first time that I've had a normal husband to go shopping with normally. And it's good. It's good.
Roughly 40,000 people had gastric bypass surgery in the United States last year. The operation is being performed in at least 50 countries around the world. Scientists are still divided on the causes of obesity. But in the mid-1990s, they made a spectacular breakthrough. At Rockefeller University in New York City, Dr. Jeff Friedman and his colleagues looked for the fat-causing gene in a mutant strain of mice. The obese, or OB mouse for short, weighs 3 times more than a normal mouse. After 8 years of searching, Friedman sensed that they were close to a breakthrough.
I set the experiment up on a Saturday, processed it through the night, and couldn't sleep very well that night. So Sunday morning at around 6, I came in and developed the film. When I saw the film, it was immediately evident not only that this was the OB gene, but that the gene was likely to play an important role as a hormone, a new hormone, in regulating body weight.
Friedman discovered a gene that regulates the relationship between the amount of fat in the body and the appetite. He named the new hormone leptin. Leptin changed obesity research forever. Here's how it works. Leptin is manufactured by the fat cells. It travels in the bloodstream to the brain. The brain reads the levels of leptin like a thermostat to learn about the amount of fat in the body. It adjusts the appetite and metabolism accordingly. Friedman and his team discovered that the OB mice are obese because the leptin-producing gene is defective. It is as if the mice never feel full. The next step was to try to fix this. They injected the mice with leptin. Amazingly, it worked. The mice lost weight. The results were splashed across the headlines. Leptin, it seemed, was the miraculous fat pill everybody wanted. If leptin had worked, it would have turned the dieting world on its head. Unfortunately, leptin failed as a fat drug. It turns out that most obese people actually have high levels of leptin. They are somehow insensitive to the hormone. The discovery of leptin established a biological basis for the control of body weight and catapulted scientists closer to finding a true fat-fighting drug.
I'm very optimistic, and I think we will have, within the reasonably near future, 10 years, 15, 20 years, whatever it turns out to be, a set of drugs which are very specifically aimed at very specific molecules, chemicals within the brain to treat very specific types of problems with the regulation of body weight. And because of that, we will be able to defeat, hopefully, this so-called epidemic of obesity and all of the medical consequences that go with it.
Scientists are making great strides in understanding the genetics of fat. But in the meantime, people must do whatever they can in the here and now. 5 months after her operation, Karen's lost 80 pounds.
So I'm here for my appointment.
A new chapter is beginning in her life.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What was going through my mind was how complicated it is, at least to somebody who has never really thought that it was worth even trying to make themselves look better. I mean, it's silly. I know a lot of heavy women who are really well put together, but I just, you know, from the time I was a kid, never really paid much attention or spent much time on it.
Look at that.
The new look?
It's a new look.
You mean I'm with it?
Yeah, you are definitely with it, yeah.
Her health problems are gone, and the pounds are dropping off. Karen is transforming, inside and out.
I sort of feel this is an entry into the world, you know, that I've been sort of looking at from the outside. I perhaps have to start thinking in other ways to start integrating a little better.
Karen faces a long road ahead as she loses weight. But finally, she may not feel so set apart from the rest of the world. Humans are hardwired to soak up extra calories and store them as fat. In today's world, surrounded by rich food, that blessing is now our curse. What if we focus on good health instead of weight? After all, it's not just the skinny ones who have all the fun. Perhaps it's time to just lighten up.